to you, who's going to present to us on how change leadership will transform your advice business. Kathy's got over 35 years experience in finance and leadership experience, including everything from startups and existing businesses through to large organisations. And she works at integrations, increasing profitability and scaling with structured strategies, mentor and coaching. And she's also had terrific background. She touched on briefly with me about some time she spent in Africa with the Maasai, doing some charity work over there. So a fascinating lady, I'm sure, will give us a really interesting talk. Thanks, Kathy. Over to you.
I might grab. Thanks. So guys, change. You know, when I actually use that word, I wonder what actually travels through your mind. Most of us actually think about change when it's about a significant thing, but the reality is that change actually happens every single day. It actually happens in every single engagement. In fact, I'm actually walking around the room and you're probably likely thinking, what's she going to do? And I am going to tap you on the shoulder. No, I'm not. But if I was to ask you guys to think about change, how would you feel about it? Do you actually embrace it? Do you actually think, you know what, I actually don't mind learning a bit more? Or do you think that, oh gosh, that's another thing that I have to actually put into my little pocket and understand? Can I actually get a show of hands? Do you mind? Who actually embraces change? Who enjoys it? And how many of us go, no, I don't really want to do that? It's okay, put your hands up. Because, you know, the reality is that most of us don't really like it. So what if I was to actually suggest to you that if we looked at change as if it was just part of our everyday life and make that a norm, how would that actually be for you? You see, if we make change a positive encounter, we're actually acting in a proactive way. When we anticipate that something is going to happen, we may not know what it is, but if we say, hey, look, life has bumps, so let's actually anticipate that something is going to happen, then we can actually go, oh, this is where it's actually going to slot in. What we do in those situations, guys, is it actually provides a pattern for those around us. The way that we embrace it is the way that others around us will embrace it as well. So if we become solution-focused around it, guess what? It's not a reactive behaviour. I'm going to actually ask, in the last few years, you've all had significant changes. We all have in the industry. There's been legislative changes. There's been changes in the economy, particularly of late. There's been changes in the environment. And as a result, I suspect that you've also noticed that your clients' expectations have changed. What has that actually meant for you in your business? Has it actually meant that you are spending more time in your business adapting and trying to stay not necessarily ahead of the game, but on top of the game? And when you do that, you're spending less and less time looking at your business, right? So I'm going to cover a few topics today. And those topics are going to... You want me to step up? Sorry, guys, I've got to change up. So today we're going to cover a few topics. But before we do that, I actually want to share a little bit more about me. None of us actually turn up to work, guys, with just our business hats on. The reality is, whether you recognise it or not, you're turning up with the whole of you, right? So nobody actually says, hey, today I've actually got quite a lot of writing to do, or I've got a lot of typing to do, so I'm going to bring just my hands in today. We bring our personal stuff, our experiences into work. So let's actually recognise that. And when we do that for ourselves, those around us do that too. So a bit about me. I'm married. I have 2 children and I have 2 gorgeous toy poodles, and I got the order right. So I'm not going to get into trouble when I get home. The last 3 years, I have actually spent more time working in other people's businesses. And that has been incredibly rewarding and enriching for me. And what that has actually allowed me to do is recognise that people actually look at things in so many different ways. Even though we may be saying the same thing, the reality is that what we say and what other people hear isn't necessarily aligned. So I want you to keep that in mind. As we talk about things today, if I could ask you to keep 2 things in mind. One is, if there is anybody throughout the day that actually says something that makes you stop and reflect, make a note of that. If at some stage you actually have an emotion that you go, oh, yeah, that's not quite right, or I'm not feeling comfortable, make a note of that too. Take those away and actually unpack them, because it might be the one thing that's actually going to get you to exactly where you want to be, but you've not actually stopped to take the time to look at it. So Graham did actually allude to the fact that I spent some time with the Maasai. About 5 years ago, possibly 6, my 16-year-old at the time was actually thinking about what she wanted to do when she finished her HSC the following year. So she started planning. And it's not too dissimilar to a timeline to now. Ebola broke out. And as she was actually navigating through the different places she wanted to visit and to actually do her community service or to give back, she landed on Africa. So at the dining table, when she delivered the message, she was really excited because she had actually invested a lot of time. My husband went, "You're not going. There's no way. Why on earth would you want to go there?" And I've put on my hat, which is mitigate risk, and let her find her journey and her purpose in life. So after quite a lot of months of discussions, she took off. And she was going to be there for 3 months. So she was there for a month, and I then joined her. And in that 2-month period, we worked in crisis centres for babies. So we had babies left out the front in cardboard boxes, wet blankets. We had a baby born in an embryonic sac. We had a dad turn up with twins, and his wife was unfortunately in a not so good mental state, and he couldn't cope any longer, so he didn't know where else to go. We trekked with the gorillas and chimpanzees, and I can tell you some funny stories. I actually fell and rolled down the hill in front of a gorilla, but you know. And I lived with a Maasai, and in some ways, guys, that experience is almost like you guys starting up, you know, your own business. There are challenges, but gosh, it's rewarding. And if we take the time to actually stop and listen, that journey forward is so enriching. It taught me to listen so that I understood, not to listen to actually provide a solution, because at the end of the day, I am a white female from a Western society. I can't possibly know what they know, nor can I actually understand what it's like to have generations, and usually there's about 4 generations living all together. They actually are seeing changes and transitions as well. That younger generation are actually wanting education. But then they actually have the grandparents who have a very different philosophy to life. So, as I do that, as we talk about that, I want to actually bring some little things that really come into our vocabulary these days. So emotional intelligence, emotional quotient, social awareness and social intelligence. At the core of it, guys, what does it actually mean? So when I say EQ, I'm actually asking you to have a look. It's really about us. It's our ability to tap into our emotions and actually understand what triggers that actually has, not only on ourselves, but what that does to those around us. Having awareness of the impact that we have on others is so important in our business. We deal with people. Our staff are our people. Our clients are people. For us to actually be aware of what's happening for somebody else, we've got to tap into that these days, even more than we did before. So actually knowing how to have empathy and how to have compassion is vital today. Being adaptable. I can tell you I adapted when I actually lived with the Maasai. There's no water out there, and the water that there is certainly not water we're accustomed to. But adapting to your environment, being nimble, being agile, it's what we actually need in our business. And when we can do that, those around us actually do that too. Are there any questions at this point before I move on? Okay. So today we're going to cover a few things. We're going to look at your businesses and actually revisit your clarity, what your business does, your unique point of view. We're going to have a look at the relationships that we have with ourselves and with those around us. We're going to have a look at change. But what does change actually mean? And then what I would like you to do is actually have a look at what you can pull out, those little bits that you resonated with, to actually make that difference, that game changer for you in your business. When I work with businesses, this is a question that I actually often ask. And I like to do that because it actually enables me to understand, first of all, the leadership team, the founders, the owners, what it is that they actually understand within their business. What is it that they're wanting to achieve? And the number of times that I have people say to me, Kathy, I didn't know what I didn't know. And when you think about that, how could you possibly know what you don't know, right? Because when we start out, when we actually want to set up a business, or when we're actually setting up a team, we bring our history, our experiences into that. It doesn't necessarily mean that there isn't another option. So let's create that other option. Let's give other people the opportunity to present their point of view. When we have clarity in our business, guys, it's like creating a roadmap. How many of you, when you started your business, had a business plan, a strategy? Show of hands? Okay. How many of you actually revisit that? Whether it's annually, biannually, monthly? Great. If I was to ask you, when you started out, you had a vision. In that vision, you had a success story. You knew what you wanted to achieve, right? Did you actually work out who was going to be part of that journey with you? Did you establish, in that success story, how many staff would you need? How many clients would that take? Did you have the right people in your business? What skill set did you need to bring in? How many of you actually asked that sort of question and then revisit it? Because the reality is that what we started with may not necessarily be where we need to be now. So you need to adapt, right? When we actually understand that level of clarity ourselves, guys, it's easy to share that journey. each of you actually need other people on that journey with you. So how do we get them to come along? I've been in companies where they actually talk about vision, and that's actually a vision statement or a mission statement. That's not what I'm talking about. Being able to bring other people on that journey with you means that you are getting buy-in. So how do we do that, right? What we do is we actually look across our business, and you might have a leadership team. You may actually have other key people in your business. And you share that vision with them, but you have an open dialogue because they actually want to be part of that. So how do they do that? They want to know how they can contribute. And irrespective of whether you are talking about a baby boomer, a Gen X, a millennial, a Gen Z, I can assure you every single one of them actually wants to be part of that journey with you. They want to succeed. They want to see you succeed. They want to see the business succeed. They want to know that they are contributing. That's what they're really there for. So let's show them that. Our vision when we started any business, any journey, is actually about getting to that end point. So what does that actually entail? It's actually understanding what your purpose is, right? When you actually know yourself, your clients will actually know too. You see, your clients are actually coming to you for a reason. But are you the right actual person? How are they going to relate to you? Do they know what you're there to do? How many of us actually have a multitude of skills, but because there's not that clarity, people don't know that that is exactly what you do. Many years ago, there was actually, I used to run a business that was a B2B. And the number of times that I saw brokers or clients actually use a different company to facilitate something that they needed because they didn't know that their original company did both. If you don't communicate it, if you're not clear about the services that you can provide, people will look elsewhere. How many of you actually know Simon Sinek? Yep. So a lot of what Simon actually says resonates for me. But one of the things, so in this quote, is not only understanding what it is that you do, but your clients actually knowing why they're going to come to you. And there is another layer to that. You see, we're emotional beings. And so you may be able to find somebody that has the solution that you want. You may be that solution. But how you make your clients feel is what they're going to remember most. How you make your staff, your people feel is what they will remember. When you walk into a restaurant and you have a really good meal, but the service is horrible, and people don't acknowledge that, are you likely to go back? I know I wouldn't, because my time is valuable. I know that I value myself, so just being told, hey, look, I'm really sorry, we've had an issue in the kitchen today, is all that it would take. It's acknowledging people, right? It doesn't matter if you've been in a hotel and they've got the best bed and you had the best night's sleep. If the concierge and the people at the desk are incredibly rude to you, what's going to happen? Are you likely to book there again? I won't. So how you make people feel is really important. I'm going to share another little story with you before I do that. Many years ago, it was in my banking days. I had probably been in the industry for about 10 or 12 years. At that point in time, I actually looked after the bank's assets. So I actually looked at mitigating risk. I worked predominantly with businesses and high-end clients. And one night, I was actually in the office. It was late. I know it was late because it was really dark and there was nobody else in the office. And my direct phone rang. Now, for my phone to ring, it means that it's somebody that knows me personally, or it's actually one of my clients. When I picked up the phone, what I heard was, "Kathy, I'm sitting in my car. I'm in the garage." I said, "Why are you sitting in your car?" And the next thing that I heard was, "I can't do this anymore. It's too hard." I can't tell you what I actually talked to her about. She was a catwalk model. But I can tell you that I was on the phone for at least an hour with her. In that moment, the one thing that I knew to ask was, "Is there anybody else at home with you?" And she said no. So I stayed on the phone until Tony came home. Tony was her partner. Now, in that situation, she got the care that she needed. We ended up having to sell her property. But the reason why I share that story with you is because sometimes we don't know what's happening for someone else. We are always connecting with people. And when we connect with people, particularly in a business scenario, we're thinking about, what is it that they want? What can I do for them? What's the solution? What's a product that I can actually give them? So we don't know what else is happening in their lives. So understanding and thinking about that and just keeping that at top of mind is really important. For me, one of my whys was that moment was a point of crystallization. I realized at that point in time, yes, I knew my business. Yes, I understood business. I thought I understood people relatively well and connected well with them. But I couldn't provide that service that really I needed to. And I had lots of situations like that, guys. So personally, I ended up undertaking a Bachelor of Counselling and Human Change. I did that not because it was going to serve me well in the finance industry, but because I knew that irrespective of what I actually did in life, it will give me a little bit more knowledge. I'd be able to do just that little bit more with whoever it was that I connected with. When we form connections, guys, and they're genuine connections, you actually form a stronger relationship. So I come to this and I say, each of you have got solutions or products for your clients. And perhaps I've outlined some of them, I may have missed some. But when they come to you, what is it that they're really asking you? Do we actually stop and think about that? If I was to say to you, "I'd like a retirement plan. Can you have that discussion with me? Tell me a little bit more about that." What do you think that I might be asking? Can I ask for your feedback? Anybody? Don't be shy. Yes?
Am I going to have enough?
Yes, absolutely.
Will you give me peace of mind?
Definitely. So you're going to get goodies. Because another thing that I actually did was about my footprint. So I actually create natural products. Please, oh, thank goodness. Yeah, I know. Okay, this is dangerous. Sorry, ladies, but I'm going to try. Hot, thank you. It's actually about peace of mind. Wanting to know, are they going to have enough? Are they going to have enough for them? What about their loved ones? Are they thinking about them? There's always another reason, guys, and understanding that sometimes may lead you to exactly where they want to be. They want to know, right? So when I was saying earlier around listening so that you understand, it's actually hearing what people want just as much as what they don't want. They actually want to feel like they are heard. And when they actually feel that they are heard, they feel valued. And your clients then actually know your value too. Now, this isn't just about your clients, guys. It's also about your staff, your people. Creating a space where there's mindfulness. When we can do what we've been talking about with our people internally, what are they going to do? They're actually going to behave in exactly the same way with your clients. When we can value our staff, what do? We share in our vision. We actually get buy-in. They actually are on that journey with us. What have we done? We've made them feel valued and trusted, right? Because we've shared that with them. And when they're trusted, what happens? They're loyal. So if we can actually emulate that with our staff will do that with those around them and with our clients as well. I love this phrase from Gandhi, because change, guys, whenever we look at change, we're likely actually asking somebody to change. And if you're not asking it, it's very likely that you're expecting it. So can I get you to actually flip that around a little bit and look inwards? When we look at change, when I look at change, it's what could I do differently? And I'll give you a scenario. We have successes in business, right? How many of us actually turn to our staff and say, hey, that was brilliant, thank you? How many of us actually acknowledge the staff? Because at the end of the day, thanks, good, you should have put your hand up even higher. They're the ones that have done the work, right? That's the reality of it. How about when something goes wrong? How many of us actually go, oh, what could I have done differently? How many of us actually ask the question, what could I have done differently so that you have actually done your job better and succeeded in what you needed to do? And how many of you follow through? See, change is actually about us and how we're prepared to embrace it. And I keep saying this, but guys, when we're consistent with our message, with our behaviour, it becomes the norm. Our people do it, our staff do it. You see it in family life. For those of you who have, grandparents, parents, children, you see the behaviours actually follow through. It's no different in business. So if we want change, let's lead from up front. We talked about empathy before, guys. You see, there are many instances where I can say we can apply empathy or compassion in the workplace, and sometimes we just don't quite recognise it. We've likely experienced people turning up to work late. And I'd suspect, just like I used to, is I get frustrated because I think, you know what? Everybody else can turn up. We all know what time we're meant to be in the office. But I recognise that if I actually looked at it slightly differently, we may actually have a better impact. So what about having this discussion? I've noticed that you've been coming in late. Would it work for you if you actually started at 10 o'clock instead of 9? Because that would work for me too, right? Thank you. People wanting to work from home. What's the reality, guys? Why are we so fearful around that? We're not at the moment because everybody's actually saying we're staying at home. But don't we actually just want productivity? Don't we want to build trust? Don't we want to show our actual employees, our staff, our people that we value them? What's the harm in that? If it works, they will feel valued. And you know what, guys? Productivity increases when people are happy. And when they're actually valued, they're happy. So let's actually create that space. Let's create that environment for them. Let's think about what we could do differently. We don't need everybody actually following. You know that earlier example that Yvonne gave where everybody's in a cubicle? Things actually change, right? We can do that. We can be part of that change. Not everybody wants to work from home. Not everybody wants to start at 10. But if it works for them and they actually turn up happy because they're not anxious because, oh my God, I've turned up late again and everybody's going to look at me and, she's going to hate me. We get a different outcome. What are some of the other things that we can actually look at, guys, in respect to change? So I talked about earlier when we acknowledge staff. And when we acknowledge staff for the successes, what about shaking it up just a little bit more? We talked about them actually being responsible for the work. How can we actually better show them that we recognise that, you know what, they are responsible for the work and they are in charge? How many of us actually in the office have people coming to us all the time? Oh my gosh, I've got this problem and I can't see a way out. What do you think? What should I do? How many of us are really quick to go, oh, I've done this before, just do that? Yes? Nobody? Nobody gives a solution? Okay. I know I used to because it's quick and it actually gets the thing resolved, right? But in actual fact, I used to hold people back. If people are in charge, let's think about it with the premise of how can I actually make this different for the next time round? Is it possible for us to think about navigating them, asking pertinent questions so that they can actually come up with a solution themselves? Do you know what the difference is? If we actually provide the solution, they walk away, either consciously or subconsciously, and do this. Why didn't I think about that? Oh my gosh, that's just so simple. As opposed to, yes, hey, listen guys, this is what I've come up with. It changes their entire psyche. And they too will do the same with their staff. We've all got people in our business at different stages through their career. What we want to do is encourage people to come up with solutions themselves. It doesn't matter what they're doing in your business. They all have a solution. So allow them to have that voice. Now, I'm mindful of time. So what I actually want to do is actually have a look at part of your business that everybody has, and that is your existing clients. We all have existing clients. We all have some sort of a pattern, a routine, an engagement, a contract with them about how often to connect with them. Could I suggest to you that it's not just about the process? When we actually have clients sitting in the background, there is actually another value. And in fact, they are a big value. There are two huge values within your business. One is your people. If you have consistency in your people and your clients see that you have those staff members in your business year after year after year, it says a lot. If you're retaining your clients, you're increasing your bottom line without even recognizing it. Or maybe you do. But I can tell you that it actually costs 5 times more to get a new client than what it does to retain one. And when you retain your clients, you actually have an increase in profitability of at least 75%. Why wouldn't we look at how we could engage with our clients in a better way. Why wouldn't you want them to advocate your business? How many of you actually have a strategy that's in place where you genuinely connect with your clients with the premise of adding value? How many of you have formed, thank you, well done, and perhaps people can actually come and have a discussion. It's something that's going to be really unique for every single one of you, right? Because your business is unique, your proposition is unique. Have a look at what you could do for your clients to give them value, added value, not just that business transaction. When you can do that, they will again see your value and they will become your voice. So guys, this is now about your blueprint. We have talked about emotional quotient. We've talked about strategies, revisiting them. We've talked about your personal unique point of view. We've talked about connections and how those connections can in fact become really the base of your profitability, whether it's with your clients or with your staff. When we value people and we make people the core of what we do, we actually then have them as our advocates. So have a look to see what it is that you can draw away or take away from today and change within your business. Have a look at what's happening for you and the impact that you have on others. And as I wrap up, this quote from the Dalai Lama, for me, speaks in volumes. You know, often we actually look at how another business is doing. So the measure is actually, if I could put it into perspective, it's you looking internally and understanding everything that's happening. So things that you need to improve, things that you're doing really well, and then you're looking at somebody's external self. I guess it's a little like Instagram and, Facebook. People put up on social media what they want you to see. It's their best part of themselves, right? Well, businesses externally, we make assumptions and we actually see the positives. But it's like that saying, the grass isn't always greener on the other side. There's validity in that, guys. Start watering your own lawn. And when you do that, you then actually will be in the place that you want to be. It will be in your success story. I'm going to wrap up here and open the floor up to any questions or any feedback. Are there any? Have I bombarded you? Come on, I know you have a question. No?
Any questions?
Yes? Are you going to get a second one?
You mentioned earlier how we need to be nimble and being
Agile.
able to adapt in our businesses. What would you say would be the most important thing that we should focus on to enable us to be able to do that?
To be honest, it's actually having a shared voice. So whatever it is that comes up, honestly, don't think that you guys as individuals, just because you might be the owners or the leaders, have to solve that. When you bring people together into a room, it actually makes you nimble and makes you adaptable. But be prepared to accept whatever it is that's actually brought to that table. When I actually was running a different business, I had quite a lot of young staff. And I always found it fascinating how, I'd bring up something and people will, especially the millennials, I love them, by the way, but they'd come up with something that's like totally left field. And I'd have to first digest it, because for me it's about breaking every single thing down. But then it's about going, okay, let's try it. What have we got to lose? We can actually have a few different things, but if we actually give everybody the opportunity to put forward what they think and then come up with anything that we need to mitigate, then that's the way forward, right? And you get a second one, and I made sure it's different. Whoa! I thought about jumping and then I went, no. Anybody else? No?
Okay.
Okay, thank you guys.
Thanks, Kathy.
Thank you.